all over the internet, look. What do you think? Are you impressed? Okay. Go on, I got some songs to sing. Hello, everyone. Are you wearing old dreams coming out at the seams? They should be new. And have I got the bargains? You lucky people, you. I've a hollyhock scent, make a lady or gent feel well-to-do. And the price fits your pocket, you lucky people, you. And I got a green velvet landscape, and to prove I'm no rogue, I'll add a smart-looking rainbow like you see pictured in Vogue. It's a wonderful buy with a wraparound sky of moonlight blue, and it's yours for a love song, you lucky people, you. And I've a green velvet landscape, and to prove I'm no rogue, I'll add a smart-looking rainbow like you see pictured in Vogue. It's a wonderful buy with a wraparound sky of moonlight blue, and it's yours for a love song, you lucky people, you. You are lucky people. Let me switch off my phone because I'm hearing myself about 30 seconds later. Shut up, mate. Oh, silent mode on. Right, I'll just switch off the... There we are. Well, you are lucky. Goodness me, you're about to have 90 minutes of Jimmy Van Heusen songs. I wish I was you. You lucky people, you. We started there with a tune from 1940 from Road to Zanzibar. Bing Crosby sang that. We'll come back to the road films, but in the meantime, you're thinking, oh no, he's going to sing a whole bunch of songs from films we've never seen and songs we've never heard. Well, not quite, I'm not. There's going to be a bit of this as well, when I find out what key I'm in. And the key I am in is, there we are, God's own key, as Digby Fairweather always calls it. B flat. Come fly with me, let's fly away. If you could use some exotic booze, there's a bar in far Bombay. Come fly with me, let's fly away. Come fly with me, let's take off to Peru. In Llama Land there's a one-man band and he'll toot his flute for you. Come fly with me, let's take off in the blue. Once I get you up there, where the air is rarefied, we can glide starry-eyed. Once I get you up there, I'll be holding you so near. You may hear angels cheer, because we're together, weather-wise, it's such a lovely day. Just say the birds and we'll beat the birds down to Acapulco Bay. It's perfect for a frying honeymoon, they say. Come fly with me, let's fly away. Let's fly away. Let's fly away. We all know that. Come Fly With Me, one of my favourites. It's been sort of slightly caricatured over the years because it's a Rat Pack wheeler with all those tribute shows, but subtle stuff back there. If you scrape away all the Rat Pack hype, it's a subtle piece of work. Come Fly With Me, 1957, that is. So why Jimmy Van Heusen? What's all this about? Well, for me, Jimmy Van Heusen is the greatest popular song melodist and composer of the second generation of guys who wrote in the American popular song book period. His professional life started in the late 30s. And by the late 30s, the first wave of great American songs, written by Gershwin and Berlin and Porter and Rodgers and Hart and all those guys, the large majority of them had already been written. And not only that, Jimmy Van Heusen had grown up with them and infused himself in them in the same way that Johnny Mercer did. He was a popular song freak. He was classically trained as a pianist to a point, but essentially he got most of his inspiration and his panache and his rhythmic awareness from Fats Waller and Teddy Wilson. He got his break in the music business a bit like George Gershwin as a song plugger for a publishing company. In fact, the same publishing company that George Gershwin started his song plugging thing at Remick. And he was blessed with a fantastic, genial personality, a real friendliness, and a natural affinity with band leaders and singers and musicians. He connected with them instantly, and he made a lot of friends in his song plugger days. People who remembered Jimmy Van Heusen not only as a lovely pianist, but also as a lovely fella. And that goes, an awful long way in that sort of business. He was writing with... He wrote a song with Jimmy Dorsey, saxophone. In fact, Jimmy Van Heusen was the lyricist on that. He wrote a song or two, I think, with Mitchell Parrish, the legendary lyricist of Hoagy Carmichael's Stardust. But his first real professional collaboration was with a fella called Eddie DeLange, who, it might be Eddie DeLange. Shall we agree it's Eddie DeLange? Let's do that. Now, Eddie DeLange had already written the words to Solitude, Duke Ellington's Solitude, and Moonglow, which had been a massive hit for Benny Goodman. So he already had a bit of a track record. But Van Heusen was right in there with him, and they wrote a clutch of songs between 1938 and 1940, a few of which are absolutely lovely, including this one, which I learnt from the Wee Small Hours album, 1954 Sinatra. But actually was written about 1938, and it's straight away. This is early Van Heusen, but straight away you can hear this harmonic curveballs. You don't quite know, what is he going with this? How does he get out of that? Which is characteristic of Van Heusen throughout his career, and it's right there at the beginning. This is a song called Deep in a Dream. I dim all the lights and I sink in my chair. The smoke from my cigarette climbs through the air. The walls of my room fade away in the gloom, and I'm deep in a dream of you. The smoke makes a stairway for you to descend. Come to my arms, may this bliss never end, for we love anew, just as we used to do, when I'm deep in a dream of you. And from the ceiling, sweet music comes stealing, we glide through a lover's refrain. You're so appealing that I'm soon revealing my love for you over again. My cigarette burns me, I wake with a start. My hand doesn't hurt, but there's pain in my heart. Awake or asleep, every memory I'll keep, deep in a dream of you. Not done very often anymore, should be. Actually, it is done by Jim Mullen and Zoe Francis. They do a lovely version. But it's still relatively under the radar, that one, Deep in a Dream. One tune that Eddie DeLange and Jimmy Van Heusen wrote is smack in the middle of the jazz standard charts. And it's a tune that was written for a show that was supposed to be a jazzy updating of A Midsummer Night's Dream. It's called Swing in the Dream from 1939, and it was a legendary flop, legendary disaster. No one knows quite why, because no one even writes about it. It had Louis Armstrong in it as bottom, of course, and the Benny Goodman Orchestra, and a whole clutch of De Lang Van Heusen songs. It closed, I think, in 2 weeks, and is just one of those great lost legends that no one knows very much about, apart from this amazing song. Dawn that dream, I dream each night, the one you love me and you hold me tight. But when I awake, you're out of sight. Oh, dawn that dream, I don your lips and don your eyes. They lift me high up in the moonlit skies, and I tumble out of paradise. Oh, dawn that dream, dawn that one-track mind of mine. Can't understand why you don't care. Just to change the mood I'm in, I'd welcome a nice old nightmare. Dawn that dream, and bless it too. Without that dream I never would have you, but it haunts me and it won't come true. Oh, dawn that dream. Understand why you don't care. Just to change the mood I'm in, I'd welcome a nice old nightmare. Down that dream and bless it too. Without that dream I never would have you, but it haunts me and it won't come true. Dawn that dream. So tricky, I went completely to the wrong key in the bridge. I hope you didn't notice that. I know you did. What an amazing piece of work that is. Far too complicated for 1939. But boy, he was just, Jimmy Van Heusen at this stage was setting the bar already. One other tune from the Eddie DeLange, Jimmy Van Heusen years, 1939, something like that. This is a tune called All This and Heaven Too. And it was written as professional songwriters occasionally do. They're written in to tie in with the Betty Davis movie of the same name. It wasn't used in the movie, but, if the song is a hit, then it helps the movie and the movie helps the song. It's a sort of reciprocal thing. I'm not going to do the lyric to this because it's you can imagine professional songwriters stuck with the prospect of having to write a song called All This and Heaven Too. You give me your lips and your lips are so heavenly. That's one of the lines. You give me your arms and your arms are like angel wings. Sweet to my ear is the song every bluebird sings. I'm not going to get through it. However, the melody is rather lovely. Again, slightly under the radar, except the main motif is a favorite quote from jazz musicians who have a tendency to that sort of thing. Jim Mullen, what? You don't mind, do you, Jim? But not just, Sonny Rollins, any of them, any of those guys. They, you'll hear it pop up every now and again. Kevin Flanagan, he does it. I think I called him on it once. I said, why do you keep playing that little lick? He said, I got to do it. I got to do it once every gig. And so it's sort of in the air, but not many people know it really. It's All This and Heaven Too. So I'll play you the melody. It's very pretty. little bit locked in time, that one, but pretty beautiful nonetheless. All This Is Mine and Heaven Too. No, All This and Heaven Too. Right. Enter Johnny Burke. Larger than life, Irish wit, drunk poet, clever guy. Johnny Burke had already written the lyric to What's New, and he'd already written, get this, he'd already written Pennies from Heaven in the mid-1930s. Now, Pennies from Heaven's one of those songs, I can't imagine anybody writing it. Hasn't it just been around? Didn't Moses hand it down to us? No. Johnny Burke wrote the lyric to Pennies from Heaven, and he'd heard about Jimmy Van Heusen, and Jimmy Van Heusen was still working at Remick, by the way, even though he'd had a few hits. The money wasn't really rolling in. It was something to do with some kind of ASCAP scandal, the collecting agency. Nothing changes. And so Johnny Burke sought him out. He bounded into the office at Remick and said, got any tunes? And Jimmy Van Heusen said, yeah. And a moments later, they had this. When they met, the way they smiled, I knew that I was through. Oh, you crazy moon, what did you do? And when they kissed, they tried to say that it was just in fun. Oh, you crazy moon, look what you've done. Once you promised me, you know that it would never end. You should be ashamed to show your funny face, my friend. And there they are, they fell in love. I guess you think that you're smart. Oh, you crazy moon, you broke my heart. This is a kind of companion piece to Hoagie Carmichael's Old Buttermilk Sky, in which the protagonist has a word with the weather, hoping that it's going to be favourable, while he pops the question to the one he loves. Whereas this song is admonishing the moon for messing up his love life. Once you promised me, you know that it would never end. You should be ashamed to show your funny face, my friend. And there they are, they fell in love. I guess you think that you're smart. Oh, you crazy moon. Oh, you crazy moon. Oh, you crazy moon, you broke my heart. That's a hip thing, isn't it? One of the better Moon songs, I think, which is Johnny Burke and Jimmy Van Heusen wrote quite a lot of Moon songs. Most of them good. You know, they had a pretty high hit rate. They both believed in keeping standards as high as possible. I mean, they were a good match. You know, they shared a love of nightlife and they shared a love of hard drinking, but they also shared a love of writing the best song they could. And Johnny Burke particularly was a guy who agonized and beat himself up, gave himself a terrible time trying to get a lyric together and getting it just so. And Jimmy Van Heusen, his way of dealing with getting it just right was, if it wasn't working the first time, he'd just write another tune and another one. This guy they just came out of him. You know, there was a limitless source of another tune. That's not working, I'll do another one. You know, amazing. First little meeting, they came up with a couple of tunes, one of which is still a standard done today, which I'll just play instrumentally because it's all a little bit sparkling on a pug-nosed dream, but it's a beautiful tune. And then another one in the late 30s, which really made a difference. When Bing Crosby heard Imagination, he went looking for Jimmy Van Heusen. This is Polka Dots and Moonbeams, of course. Imagination is funny. It makes a cloudy day sunny. Makes a bee think of honey, just as I think of you. Imagination is crazy. Your whole perception gets hazy. Starts you asking a daisy what to do, what to do. Have you ever felt a gentle touch, and then a kiss, and then find it's only your imagination again? Oh well, imagination. Silly, you go around willy-nilly. For example, I go around wanting you, and I just can't imagine that you want me to. Have you ever felt a gentle kiss, and then a kiss, and then find it's only your imagination again? Oh well, imagination. Silly, you go around willy-nilly. For example, I go around wanting you, and I just can't imagine that you want me to. And you can hear pretty easily why Bing would be attracted to something like that. It's breezy, it's clever, it's witty, it's not too sentimental. And it's the only popular song that I'm aware of with the phrase willy-nilly in it. And for that reason alone, should be given all the attention that it deserves. Now, Jimmy Van Heusen was from Syracuse in New York, and he sort of settled himself in New York, and but he'd gone over to Hollywood. He'd been invited over to Hollywood to write songs with Johnny Burke for a Jack Benny film called Love Thy Neighbor in 1940, and it was sort of, you know, it didn't really hit, and Jimmy Van Heusen really didn't like Hollywood. He didn't like being there. He didn't like the people. He didn't like the process, and he just wanted to get back to his life in New York. But Johnny Burke, by comparison, really knew that he and Jimmy Van Heusen had something going, and he really wanted him to stay. In fact, he wanted him to get locked up in the Bing Crosby machine, the way Johnny Burke was already. Johnny Burke had already written for several Bing pictures, including Road to Singapore, the first road film in 1939, with Jimmy Monaco was the composer there. But Jimmy Monaco was starting to, I expect, starting to feel like yesterday's guy, whereas Jimmy Van Heusen clearly had a bit of a, a little bit of an edge, a little bit of a modernistic twist. He sounded like tomorrow's guy. And I think Johnny Burke recognized that. And he did everything he could to get Jimmy interested in staying in Hollywood and getting involved with Bing Crosby. Now, for a songwriter, getting involved with Bing Crosby, who was the biggest singing star in the world at that time, it's a no-brainer, you would have thought. But Jimmy was a funny guy. He liked his life. He didn't like Hollywood. He wasn't sure. Johnny Burke did a bit of manoeuvring, got him to sign with Bing's brother as an agent, and they negotiated a bit more money for the music for the next road movie, because Bing had made it pretty clear he wanted Jimmy Van Heusen writing for him. And they went into Paramount. They'd agreed a fee of $7,500 to write the movie, to write the songs for the movie Road to Zanzibar, 1940. And Jimmy was so ballsy and apparently so unbothered whether he got the gig or not. Without telling Bing, without telling Johnny Burke, and certainly without telling Paramount, in the meeting itself, he asked for twice the amount of money. And of course, the Paramount executive was absolutely furious. That's not what they'd agreed. But, it's almost Jimmy knew, you know you want me. I know I'm good. Just pay me. And they did. And they threatened. They said, you'll never work at Paramount again. Well, that didn't happen. So that's what was going on. And they got involved in the road films, among other things. Now, the road films, you might remember, they weren't musicals. They were sort of madcap comedies. Bing Crosby, Bob Hope, Dorothy Lamour. Bing Crosby and Bob Hope were sort of ne'er-do-well, near con men, really, musicians and salesmen, and just flitting around the world, having madcap adventures in exotic places. That was the deal. And the songwriting deal on the road movies was they had to write an introductory song for Bing, like "You Lucky People You" was Bing's introductory song. That's the introductory song for tonight, for Road to Singapore, Road to Zanzibar. And they had to write a romantic song for Bing, and they had to write a pals song for Bing and Bob to sing, and they had to write a song for Dorothy Lamour. Now, my favourite of the Bing introductory songs is this one, which seems to set the tone not just for the whole daft movie, but the whole kind of breezy persona that Bing portrayed in his films in those days. It was very seductive for a young lad who was looking for someone to model himself on. This is from Road to Morocco, 1942. Ain't got a dime to my name, what a terrible shame. Oh hum, oh hum, just found a hole in my shoe where my stocking peeps through. Oh hum, oh hum, I know that when you're as free as a bird in a tree, life is a wonderful whim. Look at that crank with his dough in the bank, don't you feel sorry for him? Strolling along at a loss, never gathering moss. Oh hum, oh hum, I know terrific success, I ought to worry, I guess. Everybody over there. Oh hum, oh hum, up an octave, darling, up an octave. I like a shady old tree, what's the matter with me? Oh hum, oh hum, there's nothing quite as grotesque as a guy at a desk looking outside at the sun. Shirt smeared of silk and a diet of milk, I suppose he thinks he has fun. I've got the vagabond itch, Yes, I'll never get rich. Ho hum, ho hum, ho hum, ho 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 hum. Now, being poor has never sounded so fantastically attractive. What a guy. What a great little hip little song celebrating poverty. One of the challenges that Johnny Burke and Jimmy Van Heusen faced while writing for Bing Crosby is that he didn't like mushy lyrics, and the phrase "I love you" was banned from any. He wouldn't sing a song that said "I love you." You know, fair enough. It made the songwriters work just that little bit harder, because they still had to create a feeling of warmth and romance, particularly when Bing was singing his song to Dorothy Lamour. But it couldn't be too mushy. It still had to have a little bit of an edge to it, a creative edge at the very least. And the romantic songs from the road movies are nearly all fabulous. A couple of them, I'll just whiz through them. This one is from Road to Zanzibar from 1940, and his romantic tune was, "Whenever it's early twilight, I wait till the stars peep through. Funny, it's not a star I see, it's always you." That's a lovely one. And then in Road to Morocco, it was this one. "Moonlight becomes you, it goes with your hair. You certainly know the right things to wear," etc. Lovely stuff. But for me, the masterpiece is the song he sang in Road to Rio in 1946. A remarkable piece of work from both Van Heusen and Burke. It's a great lyric, beautiful tune, still right at the heart of the jazz standard repertoire. And it's a song called "But Beautiful." Love is funny, or it's sad, or it's quiet, or it's mad. It's a good thing, or it's bad, but beautiful. Beautiful to take a chance, and if you fall, you fall. And I'm thinking I wouldn't mind at all. Love is tearful, or it's gay. It's a problem, or it's play. It's a heartache either way, but beautiful. And I'm thinking, if you were mine, I'd never let you go. And that would be but beautiful. That would be but beautiful, I know. They weren't just writing for Bing in this time. They were hot. They were writing for all kinds of films in this day, in this period, which is early to mid-40s. Another song they wrote for a movie in 1944 called "And the Angels Sing," again right at the heart of the jazz repertoire, and it's this one. Hide your heart from sight, lock your dreams at night. It could happen church bells ring, it could happen to you. All I did was wonder how your arms would be, and it happened to me. Church bells ring, it could happen to you. All I did was wonder how your arms would be, and it happened to me. Yes, it happened to me. My favourite of this song, of this period actually, of songs that I didn't write for Bing, is a song that appeared in the long forgotten movie from 1941 called Playmates. And it's a tune called Humpty Dumpty Heart. Who's giving that line to you? You think it's divine, do you? You're a silly Humpty Dumpty heart. You're letting a grin kid you. You never did win, did you? You're a crazy Humpty Dumpty heart. No need to criticize or say I'm wise, but if you will recall, you sat on a garden wall, and you know what happened. You'll still take a chance, won't you? You still want romance, don't you? Hope you're lucky, Humpty Dumpty heart. Well, there was a bit of tension between Johnny Burke and Jimmy Van Heusen, because the thing is with working for Bing Crosby is if you stepped over a line, if you did something that Bing disapproved of, then he would cut you dead. And Hollywood was full of, the littered remains of people who'd crossed Bing in one way or another, because he would he would go from being, connected with you to just never talking to you again. And Johnny Burke was terrified that was going to happen to him and Jimmy, particularly as Jimmy had a very particular way of living his life. Now, these days, Jimmy Van Heusen would possibly be called a sex addict. Whereas in those days, I think, he would have been thought of as a particularly active ladies' man. And this part of his life, this activity, this ladies' man activity, this is a man who never went home alone, whether he was paying for his company or not. He was a connoisseur of brothels, of professional ladies, particularly in New York and then latterly in Hollywood. He would have madams staying with him in his Hollywood house, and he was also known as one of the great hosts.
Jimmy Van Heusen. You want to visit Jimmy Van Heusen, you could eat anything in his kitchen, you could drink anything in his bar, and you could avail yourself of whatever professional ladies happened to be hanging around his house at the time, and that was all on Jimmy. That was part of his good hostery. Now, Jimmy had no problems with that. He had no he had no moral issues with it. He knew who he was. He knew what he did, and he didn't hide it. But Johnny Burke was very uptight about it, because he thought if Bing got wind of this sort of goings on, so close to the centre of Crosby Inc., then there might be trouble. Particularly, and this is apparently a true story. It was written by Jimmy Van Heusen in his unpublished autobiography. A vice policeman was in a brothel in New York and came across a letter from Jimmy Van Heusen to the madam of the brothel on Bing Crosby headed notepaper. So the policeman took this and took it back to Everett Crosby, who was Bing's brother and business manager, and Jimmy just waited for it to hit the fan, and it never did. They got away with it. He got away with it. But that was Van Heusen. Here's a couple of enduring ballads. That's I'll just talk while I'm playing this tune. Everyone knows this one. Bessie with the Laughing Face. This was written by Phil Silvers. It's Jimmy Van Heusen tune, but Phil Silvers, later on Sergeant Bilko, wrote a lyric to Bessie Burke, the wife of Johnny Burke. And it was widely regarded as a kind of terrible lyric. So Johnny Burke got a hold of it and rewrote it for Frank Sinatra's daughter, Nancy. Nancy with the laughing face. A song also that languished in a long-forgotten movie called Belle of the Yukon from 1945. Again, survived the terrible film to become one of the great jazz standards that everybody loves playing. Lately I find myself out gazing at stars, hearing guitars like someone in love. Sometimes the things I do astound me, mostly whenever you're around me. Lately I seem to walk as though I have wings. I bump into things like someone in love. Each time I look at you, I'm limp as a glove, and feeling like someone in love. exceptional stuff. Like Someone in Love, it's a piece of popular song perfection, really, and will be around as long as anyone's playing music from this period, I think. Okay, we're going to finish this first set with a tune that was one of the songs from Johnny Burke and Jimmy Van Heusen's several failed musicals. They were the most popular songwriters in Hollywood in their period, in the early to mid 40s. And they dabbled with the whole Broadway musical thing, but of course they made the mistake, in retrospect it seems, of thinking they could write a handful of songs for Crosby, fly over to New York, write a handful of songs for a musical, fly back, have a couple of things on the go. Now, the touchstone for excellence, state-of-the-art musical theatre at that point was from Rodgers and Hammerstein, what Rodgers and Hammerstein were achieving. And Rodgers and Hammerstein were dedicated theatre people. They hung in New York. They didn't dabble with the movies. They were totally dedicated to making excellent musical theatre. That can't be said for Jimmy Van Heusen and Johnny Burke. That doesn't mean to say they didn't try, because they kept getting asked if they would do it. But it seems to me, in retrospect, that their heart wasn't in it, and it was always a terrible, terrible experience for them. The scores actually weren't even terribly distinguished. And the whole stress of it made Johnny Burke very unwell. And I think the last musical they got involved with was something in the early 50s called Carnival in Flanders, starring Dolores Gray, and it was the usual disaster, and all exacerbated by the fact that Johnny Burke was not very well at this point. He was a raging alcoholic and a drug addict, and he was in and out of rehab, and Jimmy Van Heusen never knew whether he was going to be turning up for work, or if he could turn up for work, how long he was going to be able to work. And the whole thing was terrible, and the stress of musicals did him no favours whatsoever. So they did Carnival in Flanders. It was a disaster. But there was one song in there that Sinatra heard and re-recorded on his Where Are You album in 1957. And thereafter, it became a much-loved standard. But at the time, it was sort of ignored. Nobody really did it. And it's quite tempting now to listen to it in retrospect, because it's darker than many Burke and Van Heusen tunes. And, one has to wonder whether Burke's personal darkness was seeping through into his lyrics here. And this is the magnificent Here's That Rainy Day. Maybe I should have saved those leftover dreams. Funny, but here's that rainy day. Here's that rainy day they told me about, and I laughed at the thought that it might turn out that way. Where is the worn-out wish that I threw aside? After it brought my lover near. Funny how love becomes a cold, rainy day. Funny that rainy day is here. Thank you. We're about halfway through. We'll take 5 minutes. I'm going to get a Beck's Blue. You go and get something nicer than that. And we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Thank you very much. Tickle the dog. Where is he? What do you want? With you in a second.
Say hello, Dukes. This is Dougal. I know this is why some of you tune in for this moment here. Go on, give us your best Bing. Go on, do your Bing. I love you. I love you. I love you. You know, I've just realised I've missed out a whole chunk. I've missed out a whole chunk. I'm going to have to get going and do it now, because this is crazy. Leon Knock, who'll be watching. By the way, shout out to Leon. Leon Knock has been tuning in to these, I think, since we started them. This is the sixth one now. And he has reviewed them for Jazz Journal. And we really appreciate that. Leon, thanks so much. I've got no idea what you wrote because I don't subscribe to Jazz Journal, and they won't let us read the reviews. But I mean, you're here again tonight, so I assume you're getting something out of it all. So we really appreciate that, Leon. Thanks so much. Right, Dougal, I've got to get back now because I missed out a whole chunk in the first half. Excuse me. I'm going now. And the bit that I missed out, hello, welcome back, everybody. The bit that I missed out is one of the reasons, of course, why Johnny Burke was so nervous about Jimmy Van Heusen's notorious way of life, was that Bing, among other things, had really hit the heights by playing a priest in Going My Way and Bells of St. Mary's in 1944 and 1945. And he was a fantastically persuasive hero of a priest, modern guy, interested in youngsters, and sang, as usual, the hippest songs. Like this one, just the hippest song ever written for kids. And also a really groovy way of getting kids, for adults, to get kids to do what adults want them to do. And inspired, apparently, by Johnny Burke overhearing Bing Crosby tell one of his kids he was a mule, which I think is probably one of the milder admonishments that Bing made towards his kids, if the stories are to be believed. Would you like to swing on a star, carry moonbeams home in a jar, and be better off than you are? Or would you rather be a mule? A mule is an animal with long funny ears, kicks up at anything he hears. His back is brawny but his brain is weak. He's just plain stupid with a stubborn streak. And if the way you'd hate to go to school, you may grow up to be a mule. Or would you like to swing on a star, carry moonbeams home in a jar, and be better off than you are? Or would you rather be a pig? A pig is an animal with dirt on its face. His shoes are a terrible disgrace. He has no manners when he eats his food. He's fat and lazy and extremely rude. And if you don't care a feather or a fig, you may grow up to be a pig. And if you had to swing on a star, carry moonbeams home in a jar, and be better off than you are? Or would you rather be a fish? A fish won't do anything but swim in a brook. He can't write his name or read a book. To fool the people is his only thought, and though he's slippery, he still gets caught. And from that light, is that what you wish? Then you grow up to be a fish, and all the monkeys aren't in the zoo. Every day you'll meet quite a few. So you see, it's all up to you. You can be better than you are. You should be swinging on a star. And that won the Oscar, of course. Why wouldn't it? It's hip as hell.
And in the Bells of St Mary's, there was a follow-up, a sort of follow-up kids song, which wasn't as elaborately brilliant as that, but in some ways is a kind of more inspiring. It's I love it. It's not just a kids song; it's like a little aphorism for life. It sits alongside accentuate the positive and all those other kind of life's just a bowl of cherries things that cheer up. Life is not so bad, and there's a whole philosophical strain that says, things aren't so bad, actually. And this is Aren't You Glad You're You? I'm just checking the key. It's that. Every time you're near a rose, aren't you glad you've got a nose? And if the dawn is fresh with dew, aren't you glad you're you? And when a meadowlark appears, aren't you glad you've got two ears? And if your heart is singing too, aren't you glad you're you? You can see a lovely sky, or touch a friendly hand, or taste an apple pie. Pardon the grammar, but ain't life grand? And then when you wake up each morn, aren't you glad that you were born? Think what you got the whole day through. Aren't you glad you're you? Mainly we are. And then other times we're not so much. The Johnny Burke, Jimmy Van Heusen collaboration was coming to a natural end. Johnny was just getting too ill, and Jimmy was needing to spread his wings a little bit. And there was no falling out. Jimmy was hugely fond of Johnny Burke, and I think if Johnny Burke hadn't have been so unwell, they may well have carried on writing together. But in the end, Jimmy basically felt he didn't have a writing partner, and he was locked in. He was locked into writing with Johnny Burke, but he needed to get things moving, and so he started writing. But he couldn't write under his own name with other people. His first pseudonym was Arthur Williams, but he was rumbled quite quickly. And then his second pseudonym was Kurt Adams. And he wrote a handful of things in the early 50s, sort of slightly under the radar. And there was some lovely things, including this one that he wrote with Carl Sigman, which I think is it's one of the great second division Jimmy Van Heusen tunes. If that doesn't sound patronising, but you'll know what I mean when you hear it. This is Carl Sigman and Jimmy Van Heusen. This is a song called I Could Have Told You. I could have told you she'd hurt you, she'd love you wild and desert you. If only you'd asked, I could have told you so. I could have saved you some crying. Yes, I could have told you she's lying, but you were in love and didn't want to know. I see her now as I toss and turn and try to sleep. I see her now making promises she'll never keep, and soon it's over and done with. She'll find someone new to have fun with. Through all of my tears, I could could have told you so. I could have told you. Lovely tune. Excuse me. Do you think you could get me a vocal zone, actually? Do you know where they are? It's been a funny old day. Half an hour before we went on air, 2 of our cameras stopped working. So when I should have been warming up my voice, we were scrabbling around in USB hell. Never mind, you don't need to know that. You don't need to know that. The I Could Have Told You song was, I don't know whether you saw a little video that I did telling a story of me sending a demo tape to Richard Rodney Bennett about 28 years ago. And he phoned me back and we chatted about Jimmy Van Heusen. He was basically interested because I'd mentioned in my letter that I was thinking of doing a Jimmy Van Heusen thing. And we swapped, thanks so much, and we swapped titles, tried to turn each other onto titles. And interestingly, he didn't know any of the Sinatra ones, because it turns out doesn't like Sinatra, which it seemed to me, if you're a Jimmy Van Heusen fan, that you're missing out on about 50% of Jimmy Van Heusen songs. Never mind. But one of the things we both agreed was a miniature masterpiece was that one. I Could Have Told You. He was a massive fan of that tune. It's great, isn't it? Beautiful song. Yeah. Did you know it?
No.
Turning my wife on as well. It's my day complete. So, Jimmy Van Heusen and Frank Sinatra. He had known Sinatra for years. In fact, it goes back all the way to his time in when he was at the Remick Publishing House, demonstrating other people's songs. Because part of the people he would meet would be band leaders and singers who were scuffling around and could do with a few arrangements being given to them, under the counter for nothing. And Jimmy Van Heusen got to know Sinatra when he was still working at the Roadhouse in the mid 1930s, late 1930s, before he joined Tommy Dorsey, and he would slip Sinatra, a few freebies, and they were firm friends for years and years and years, and it was Jimmy Van Heusen was a real friend of Sinatra's when Sinatra's star was on the wane, and he was losing his voice, and he'd lost his audience, and he couldn't get work. Jimmy Van Heusen was with him, and he was also with him when Frank left his first marriage to go and chase after Ava Gardner. Jimmy Van Heusen was Sinatra's lieutenant, really, in keeping the press at bay and all that sort of stuff, and just generally looking after his friend. And he was also the man who discovered Frank when it all went wrong with Ava, with slashed wrists in his apartment, and it was Jimmy who called the ambulance and saved Frank's life. So he was right at the heart of things, and it sort of made sense that when Sinatra was on the rise again after his Oscar win with From Here to Eternity, and he started taking control of his recording quality. He knew that he was reinventing himself. He was a snappier, swingier Sinatra with modern arrangers, Nelson Riddle, Billy May, and what he needed was some modern songs to go with that. And Jimmy Van Heusen was his pal. He'd lost his lyricist, and another pal of his was Sammy Cahn, who'd written a couple of Sinatra hits back in the 40s, Time After Time, I Fall in Love Too Easily, with Julie Stein. But Julie Stein had gone to Broadway to make it in musicals, and of course Julie Stein did make it in musicals, Funny Girl, Gypsy, all that. But in the meantime, Sammy Cahn's left in Hollywood, and he's scuffling around, and it was Sinatra who put his two pals together and said, write me a song that can be the title number for my new movie. Really? Okay, what's your new movie, Frank? The Tender Trap. You see a pair of laughing eyes, and suddenly you sigh and sighs. You think there's nothing wrong, string along, boy, then snap. those sighs, they're part of the tender trap. You're hand in hand beneath the trees, and soon there's music in the breeze. You're acting kinda smart until your heart just goes whap. Those trees that breeze, they're part of the tender trap. Some starry night, when her kisses make you tingle, she'll hold you tight, and you'll hate yourself for being single. Then all at once it seems so nice, the folks are throwing shoes and rice. You hurry to a spot that's just a dot on the map. You wonder how it all came about. It's too late now, there's no getting out. You fell in love, and love is the tender trap. Pretty hip stuff. Perfect. They got the job. They became house writers for Sinatra, and they always used to come up with the theme tune to his latest movies and things like this. The first thing they had to do actually was to write 4 songs for a telecast, which was long lost for many years. It was a musical adaptation of Thornton Wilder's Our Town. Sinatra played the stage manager, and he sang Our Town, The Impatient Years, Look to Your Heart, and Love and Marriage, which was a huge, huge hit. And I'm going to spare you Love and Marriage because it's a bit annoying. But let's just do a couple of the other theme tunes that they wrote in the 50s that are beautiful. This one from Joker is Wild. If they'd only called the song, if they only called the film All the Way, it might have made it. There was a film in 1959 called Hole in the Head, and the big hit from that was a sort of, it was like a son of Swinging on a Star. Really, it was another kids film, another kids song, which was a huge hit, and of course it was. Just what makes that little old ant think he can move a rubber tree plant? Everyone knows an ant can't move a rubber tree plant, 'cause he's got, you know this one, he's got, okay, another one of those slightly annoying tunes, but it was just very, very enormous hit. Really connected with the kids, and it's a decent enough message, but the postscript to that song, of course, is that it was used as the John F. Kennedy campaign song because Sinatra was right in there with the Kennedys and right in there with Kahn and Van Heusen, and Van Heusen couldn't care less one way or the other, but went along with it for his friend, and it went like this. Everyone is voting for Jack, 'cause he's got what all the rest lack. Everyone wants to back Jack. Jack is on the right track, 'cause he's got high hopes. He's got high hopes. 1960's the year for his high hopes. Come on and vote for Kennedy. Vote for Kennedy, and we'll come out on top. Whoops, there goes the opposition, kerplop. There you go. Seemed to work. Seemed to work for a while. And the interesting thing about Hole in the Head is, while High Hopes got all the attention, the song that plays over the opening credits was almost ignored, and it's I think it's one of the great Kahn Van Heusen tunes. It's called All My Tomorrows. Today I may not have a thing at all, except for a dream or two. But I've got lots of plans for tomorrow, and all my tomorrows belong to you. Right now it may not seem like spring at all. We're drifting and the laughs are few. But I've got rainbows planned for tomorrow, and all my tomorrows belong to you. No one knows better than I that luck keeps passing me by. That's fate. But with you there by my side, I'll soon be turning the tide. Just wait. As long as I've got arms that cling at all, it's you I'll be clinging to. And all the dreams I dream, beg or borrow, on some bright tomorrow will all come true. And all my bright tomorrows belong to you. That's for my wife. All my bright tomorrows belong to you. Is that a... I don't know about bright tomorrows. I'll do my best. For me, actually, the Kahn Van Heusen real achievements in the 1950s to do with Sinatra are less to do, with the film songs, which are cool, But it's the themed songs that they wrote for Sinatra's classic Capitol-themed album. So Come Fly With Me, they always bookended them, you know, or on some of them they did. On Come Fly With Me, it opens with Come Fly With Me and it ends with It's Nice to Go Travelling, both Carl Van Heusen tunes. On Come Dance With Me, it's Come Dance With Me at the top and The Last Dance. Now, you might not know The Last Dance, but we're gonna look at that later on. And there was one tune they wrote for Sinatra, which was incredibly grand. I'm just going to play as an instrumental. It was the theme. It was the title track for his 1958 masterpiece of a record called "Only the Lonely." And Jimmy Van Heusen had never written anything like this before. It's grand. It's dark. It's shadowy. It's quite a heavyweight thing. You know, and it's lovely, and it sort of it inspires a certain melodramatic approach on the keyboard. Let's see. I'm in A flat. Can I do melodrama in A flat? Well, we'll see. Put on your dancing boots and come dance with me. Come dance with me, what an evening for some terpsichore. Pretty face, I know a swinging place. Come dance with me. Romance with me on a crowded floor. And while the rhythm swings, what lovely things I'll be saying. For what is dance but making love set to music playing? When the band begins to leave the stand and folks start to roam, as we walk home cheek to cheek we'll be. Come on, come on, come on, come on and dance with me. what lovely things I'll be saying. For what is dance but making love set to music playing? When the band begins to leave the stand and folks start to roam, as we walk home, cheek to cheek we'll be. Oh, come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on and dance with me. Yeah. One of the hipper ones, I think. That's lovely. Now, one of the things you might have noticed about, quite apart from the intricacy and the beautiful balance of Jimmy Van Heusen's melodies and harmony, is an increasing interest I noticed as he goes on in chromaticism. Now, chromaticism, as I'm sure you all know, is the closest notes on the piano. Semitones apart, and you think, when you hear them like that, you think, well, it's not very melodic. It's not very musical even, until you remember that one of the most famous and most popular songs of all time is a chromatic melody. Okay, so it can work. It's all about context. It's all about how it's harmonized. And there's a couple of absolute monsters, chromatic monsters, shall we call them, in the Van Heusen catalogue. And here's a couple. One that hardly anyone has a go at these days as a vocalist, because it's very easy to get wrong. Even Sinatra miscued on one note. The rest of the performance is so nice that it got through, but I think Jack Jones did a slightly more pristine version of it. This Call Me Irresponsible, I'm not even going to try. It's not much fun to sing, actually. It's like being it's like being locked in a straitjacket and being asked to breathe. But I will play it to you because it's ingenious. Another one of his lovely chromatic experiments came at the end of the Come Dance With Me album, and it was a tune called The Last Dance. And I've not heard anything like it. I've never heard any melodies sit on the notes that Jimmy Van Heusen chooses for The Last Dance. And I will have a shot at this because it's quite an unusual experience to do it. Just to sing those notes on that chord. Let me not say any more. Let's just play it, and then you can see if you think I'm talking nonsense. But I think it's quite something. This. It's called The Last Dance. It's the last dance. We've come to the last dance. The dim and the lights down. it's obvious they're aware of us, the pair of us, alone on the floor. Still I want you to hold me like this forever and more. It's the last song, they're playing the last song. The orchestra's yawning, I'm sleepy, I know. They're wondering just when we'll leave, but till we leave, keep hoping me tight through the last dance, each beat of the last dance, and save me the first dance in your dreams tonight. They're wondering just when will we leave, but till we leave, keep holding me tight through the last dance, each beat of the last dance, and save me the first dance in your dreams tonight. Weirdly old-fashioned and modern all at the same time. Clever stuff. Okay, just a couple more with the Van Heusen calm thing. It seems to me Jimmy Van Heusen, with his outrageous private life, represented a certain kind of swinging bachelor lifestyle that Sinatra actually was sort of hinting at in his image and in his records and his films at the time. But as Sammy Kahn said, you know, Jimmy Van Heusen was the guy Frank Sinatra wanted to be, but couldn't pass the physical. It seemed to me Jimmy Van Heusen was doing the real thing. Sinatra just sort of dabbled with it, and they would go on holiday together, and Jimmy would have his little black book with all the top ladies in whatever city in the country in the world they were in, and you know, but in fact, Jimmy was known for that. You know, even when Bing Crosby wanted to let his hair down, which was about twice a year, he would just go and drink with Jimmy and, you know, do whatever, you know, just get it out of his system and then go back to a normal life, because no one else could live like that as a way of life. And so I always think it's quite amusing that when they're doing these sort of swinging tunes, Kahn and Van Heusen, it's The Tender Trap and Love and Marriage. It's all about, in the end, it's all about kind of tying yourself up. There's always some kind of, you know, you're always going to go to church, and you're always, in the end, you're going to get married. And even in this tune, which is a song called Ring-a-Ding-Ding, sounds like it's going to be the ultimate hedonistic sort of manifesto. It turns out it's The Tender Trap all over again. It's a very cool tune, though. Life is dull, it's nothing but one big lull, and presto you do a skull. I find that you're reeling, she sighs and you're feeling like a toy on a string, and your heart goes ring-a-ding-ding, ring-a-ding-ding, ring-a-ding-ding. How could that funny face that seemed to be commonplace project you right into space without any warning? I don't know if it's morning, nighttime, winter or spring. What's the difference? Ring-a-ding-ding, ring-a-ding-ding, ring-a-ding-ding. She takes your hat that captivating creature. And like it's planned, you're in a phone book looking for the nearest preacher. Life is swell, you're after that small hotel, somewhere a village bell, the sound of the steeple, announcing to people love's the loveliest thing. And the bells go ring-a-ding-ding, ring-a-ding-ding, ring-a-ding-ding. She'll grab your hand, that captivating creature, and like it's planned, you're in the phone book looking for the nearest preacher. Life is swell after that small hotel, somewhere a village bell sounds in the steeple, announcing to people love's the loveliest thing. The bells go ring-a-ding-ding, 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 ring-a-ding-ding. I always loved that one. I loved that one. Then I realised Little and Large used it as their theme tune. Little and large, which is, I'm sorry, you might have forgotten that, and now I've put it in your head and you'll never forget it. Ring-a-ding-ding. It's very cool. So, of course, it couldn't last forever. What happened to Jimmy Van Heusen? Did he die of syphilis? No, I don't think he did. He did get unwell somewhere along the line, and he got married, which surprised quite a lot of people in the late 60s. But I think he was just quite literally shagged out. He was done. And he walked away from his old life, and he walked away largely from his old professional life as well. He'd done what he'd come to do, which is pretty miraculous, if you like the American popular song. And he settled down into something altogether more ordinary and more sedate, and I wonder that I think the last great song he wrote, and we'll finish on this one, I think, the last great song he wrote for Frank Sinatra was the title song of the album September of My Years, which Sinatra recorded in 1965, and he was 50. He turned 50, and this this precipitated a whole load of reflection and retrospective sort of albums in which he chatted about his life. Now, 50, I'm 58. I'm 59 next week, a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. You know, I remember listening to the September of My Years album, in which old guys look back on their life, you know, thinking, man, that's old. That's really old. Yeah, September of My Years, man, I'll never be that old. I'm sort of past that already. Anyway, that's my problem. The album and the sentiment is marvelous and heartwarming and sensible, you know, and I wonder whether all of that just coincided with Jimmy Van Heusen. He was about Sinatra's age, you know, slowing down, looking back, going, hey, what's it all about? And I think the title track goes some way to answering that question. September of My Years. One day you turn around, it's summer. Next day you turn around and it's fall. And all the springs and the winters of a lifetime. Whatever happened to them all? As a man who has always had the wandering ways, now I'm looking back for yesterdays, till a long forgotten love appears. smiling softly as I near September. The warm September of my years. As a man who has never paused at wishing wells, now I'm watching children's carousels, and there's laughter, music to my ears, and I find that I'm smiling gently as I near September. September of my years. The golden warm September of my years. So thank you very much. That'll do for Jimmy Van Heusen for one little trip. More than enough. I've left out probably some of your favourite ones. I Thought About You, Johnny Mercer, Empty Tables, Johnny Mercer, loads of things back there. Never mind. Great stuff. Thanks so much for joining us. Things are getting better. Are things getting better? I think they are. Let's just hang in, stay well. Don't go to the beach this weekend. Don't do that. Let's just hang in and make everyone better for the summer. Thanks so much for joining us. It's been lovely. Thanks to Trace for, I don't know what you've done over there. Have you done anything? No. Not a lot. Okay. I'd like to shout out to you all, but all I can say is, I know who you are and you know who you are, and it's been great hanging with you. We'll all be together.